Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Owens, and today I will be walking you through three visual arts lesson plans I selected for 7th grade students. These activities were chosen from some of the most respected art education institutions in the country, the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the National Gallery of Art. Each one was selected with intention, and together they build a well-rounded visual arts experience that develops skill, cultural awareness, and cross-curricular thinking. The grade level I am focusing on today is 7th grade. This was selected because middle school is a pivotal developmental moment. Students are forming their identities, becoming more aware of the world around them, and capable of significantly more complex artistic and critical thinking than they were in elementary school. The California visual arts standards I am addressing span all four artistic processes: creating, presenting, responding, and connecting, ensuring that these lessons are not just about making art, but about thinking through it. The first lesson plan comes from the Metropolitan Museum of Art and is titled Beyond the Figure. This activity focuses on the American artist Charles Damuth and his 1928 work, I Saw the Figure 5 in Gold, a painting that depicts a person not through a little portrait, but through objects, colors, numbers, and symbols that represent their identity. This is the lesson that integrates another content area. Specifically, it bridges English language arts and visual arts by asking students to analyze both a poem and a painting, compare how meaning is communicated through each medium, and then create their own artwork inspired by a text that they're choosing. Students begin by closely observing Damon's painting and discussing what they notice, as in colors, numbers, fragmented shapes. They then read the William Carlos Williams poem that inspired it and compare how the two artists communicated the same subject in completely different ways. From there, students select a piece of writing that is meaningful to them and create their own artwork that represents its themes visually rather than literally. This activity benefits students enormously because it teaches them that art is a language, one with its own vocabulary and grammar, and that it can say things that words alone sometimes cannot, which is a profound concept. The second lesson plan is also from the Metropolitan Museum of Art and is called Composing a Landscape. It centers on Frederick Edwin Church's monumental 1859 painting, Heart of the Andes, a massive, hyper-detailed landscape that Church painted after extensive scientific expeditions through South America. This lesson crosses into science and geography by asking students to study how Church's careful observation of actual geological formations, atmospheric conditions, and plant life informed every compositional decision in the painting. Students examine Church's painting in detail and discuss how the principles of science, observation, documentation, and accuracy are present throughout. They then apply those same principles to their own landscape compositions, making decisions about foreground, middle ground, and background to create a sense of depth and space. This activity directly reinforces what we covered in our element of space lesson earlier in this course. The third lesson plan comes from the National Gallery of Art and is titled Who Am I? This module uses self-portrait works from the NGA's permanent collection to invite students to explore identity, their own and others. Students examine how artists across different cultures, historical periods, and backgrounds have chosen to represent themselves and then create their own self-portraits alongside a poem, a speech, or a personal letter. This activity is particularly powerful for 7th graders because identity is at the forefront of everything they're experiencing developmentally. By examining how artists from West Africa, Latin America, East Asia, and Europe have all approached the question of self-representation differently, students begin to understand that there is no single correct way to depict a person, and that the choices an artist makes about color, framing, symbols, and style are always rooted in something personal and cultural. Earlier in this course, we created our own self-portraits, so this lesson plan would function as a meaningful extension of that experience with added historical and cultural depth. I chose these three activities because together they form a comprehensive artistic education rather than three isolated lessons. The first builds visual literacy and cross-curricular thinking. The second develops observational skill and spatial composition. The third builds cultural awareness and personal reflection. All these address different California visual arts standards and draw on different intelligences, which means students with varying strengths all have an entry point. Perhaps most importantly, all three center the idea that art is not just about making something beautiful, it is about making something meaningful. One of the greatest privileges of teaching visual arts is the opportunity to expose students to the full breadth of human creative expression. These three lessons open doors to artists from multiple backgrounds and time periods. The NGA self-portrait unit in particular is intentionally designed to feature artists from underrepresented communities, ensuring that every student in the classroom can find someone whose experience resonates with their own. When students see themselves reflected in the art history they are studying, their engagement and confidence increases dramatically. Across all three activities, students are building a layered set of visual art skills. They develop visual literacy by learning to read and interpret images with the same depth they bring to reading text. They develop compositional awareness through the landscape lesson. They develop cultural and historical context through the self-portrait unit. And they develop personal voice through every activity that asks them to make a choice about how they want to represent an idea. These ideas are not isolated, they compound each other, and they transfer well beyond the art. Here are the sources referenced throughout this presentation. All lesson plans were sourced directly from the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the National Gallery of Art, two of the most respected art education institutions in the world. Thank you for viewing.